I want to show you how I go about making and using vocabulary flashcards when you're just starting out a language like Japanese. So first, if you don't already know the Japanese writing system, you can go ahead and write your Japanese word in Romaji. So maybe we'll do purezento. Purezento. Now, you can write the Japanese, the English word on the back like this. Present. And that's one good way of going about it. One failing of this is that if you're not very good at if you don't have a very good memory for the words that you're actually doing, you might look at this and think it says present, as in a verb, giving something to someone. And that in Japanese is not purezento. Purezento is just a present that you give someone. So that's one element that can be a drawback of writing the English word on the back of the card. One other thing to bear in mind is that on either side of the card, you should have just one word. And when you get into upper levels, I actually do write additional information on the card in smaller lettering on the bottom or along the side. But especially at elementary level, it can easily kind of get jumbled up in your head. And they've actually done studies on this that show that people who use flashcards, when they have more than one word on either side of the card, they tend to get confused and they don't remember the word, the word in the foreign language as well. So one word on either side of the card. Now, one thing that I like to do for elementary level stuff is rather than having this English language interpolating here and maybe throwing me off, I like the idea of using images on my flashcards as much as possible. Now, I'm not an artist, so what I like to do is I like to take the elementary level textbooks. Here's Japanese for Young People 2, for example. The elementary level textbooks tend to have, let me find a good page. They tend to have vocabulary images as well as vocabulary lists, which you can see, for example, right here. They do have vocabulary lists. But I like the images, and so what I do is I have a copier at home, so I just copy the vocabulary image pages, and I just cut them out. So you cut out, for example, present. Or let's do a different one. Let's do hat. Yeah, and like I said, I'm not an artist. You could just draw a picture of a hat. It's actually quicker and easier for me to cut it out, to make a photocopy of the page and cut it out. So I paste the picture of the hat on one side, and I'm going to write my Japanese word on the other side. Now, once you learn hiragana, use hiragana. Stop using romaji. It's not really that helpful. So I'm going to write boshi on this side of the card. So then I have hat, boshi. And like I said, I really actually prefer this. We'll do one more. Let's do baseball. Actually, no, let's do one of the verbs. So I have these kind of nice verb pictures here. This is the verb agemasu. I give. The only situation in which I will write multiple words on one side of the card is if there's something really specific, like the fact that agemasu only refers to giving from the speaker to someone else and not from someone else to the speaker. So I have picture, giving on one side, and then I'll write agemasu on the other side of the card. And then I'll just tape or glue the images on. Doesn't really take that much longer, so long as you have a copy machine to do the image flashcards. And I think it's just because, again, you're not interfering as much. You're connecting boshi with this image rather than image hat, rather than like English word hat, picture of hat in your head, and then, oh yeah, boshi. Just quick and dirty here. That's gonna bug me. So how do I use them? Well, I go, in general, in beginner level, I strongly recommend going from the English or picture side of the card to the Japanese rather than vice versa. And the reason for that is that you'll remember, you already know the English, you know? So you're not testing yourself on whether you remember an English word, you're testing yourself on whether you remember a Japanese word. So I look at this, I remember that this is present, not present, and I try and say it. Presento. Then I flip it over. Presento, I got it right. So I set it aside. What about this one? I know what it means in English. It's I give. But I just can't quite come up with it. So I flip it over. I read it. Agemasu. I read it out loud. I always want to say my word out loud. So agemasu. Out loud. Flip it back over. Agemasu. I say it once more. Then I send it to the back. I'm going to look at it again. This one, yeah, I remember. Okay, boshi. I check. Boshi. I got it right. I set it aside. Now I have the one that I've sent to the back. And this time I remember it. Agemasu. Check. Agemasu. I got it right. And I'm done. Obviously, if you have a pile of 10 or 20 flashcards, it's going to take you a little while to get through them. And if you're using a flashcard box, what you'll wind up doing is that little stack that you've built up of the ones that you are pretty solid on, that you're confident on, you'll send it to the next section. So if they were in daily, you'll send it back to odd. If they were in odd or even, you'll send them back to one of the days of the week, whichever one's looking sparse. And if they were in the days of the week, you'll send them back another section to the several times a month. And that's all there is to it. Vocabulary cards.